Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a great show planned out for you guys tonight, going to talk about the possibility of the transfer portal, Tom Allen's comments recently on the transfer portal and what he would like to see. All of that and more coming up in tonight's episode. But before we get into tonight's show, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We do this show year round, so consider becoming a channel member. Consider sticking it out with us. We just did a stream last Saturday of the Miami Texas A&M game on the members only stream. So if that's something that you're interested in, be sure to become a channel member. Be sure to hit that join button right beneath this video, select your tier and become a channel member and support the show on a monthly basis. With that said, hit that like button while you're in here. Really helps us out on these live videos, helps grow the channel. And it's a free way to support the show. And then last but certainly not least, as we get towards the end of our planned portion of the show, we will turn it over to you guys, the comment section. We can't get to each and every comment, but if you want to be sure that your comment and or question is read and reacted to during this live episode, be sure to hit that super chat feature and we will highlight your comment during this live show. And with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. Jordan, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Obviously, it's the season of giving right now, and you and I both know we're giving a lot right now. But more importantly, it's bowl season. Clemson does have a bowl game this Saturday. I'm excited to talk about a lot going on with things off the field with the transfer portal and coaches and staff changes. It's a never-ending whirlwind, but I love. I'm excited, at least somewhat, if not a little bit apprehensive about this part of the offseason for the Tigers. And obviously we'll know more, I think, about what direction this program is headed, after the bowl game when decisions become more clear about what Dabo Swinney wants to do with this program next season.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I've been on record saying that I think at the end of this offseason, we will know what direction this program is headed, whether we are trending back to a championship level program or whether we are going to continue our slide down the mountain, if you will, or continue to be a program that is not at or towards the top of college football. So we will see that changes still anticipated, although it's starting to look like maybe we don't get the changes that we want. So those are conversations, I think, for a later date on this show. Right now, we're going to break down, obviously, the upcoming bowl game between Penn State, what most would have tabbed as a preseason national championship game. And here we are in the Pinstripe Bowl, playing in a baseball stadium in New York. So certainly going to be an interesting matchup to get into. A lot of ties that now that Tom Allen is the defensive coordinator at Clemson, and just kind of the trajectory of both of those programs as it pertains to their preseason expectations. Very similar stories there, other than the firing of head coaches and things like that. So, but yeah, as you mentioned, 'tis the season. It's the holiday season. Hopefully everybody has a very Merry Christmas. This is the last time we will talk to each and every one of you before the Christmas holiday comes and goes. So I hope each and every one of you have a great time with your loved ones, with your family, whoever you choose to celebrate the holiday with. I hope that you have a great one. And I hope everybody just enjoys their holiday season. And we will obviously be here on Saturday to break down the Clemson game immediately following the game and all of that stuff as well. But yeah, just hope everybody has a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure that y'all are staying safe. Those of you that are traveling, Of course, we want each and every one of you to be safe. So that's the most important thing. Spend time with loved ones. Time is short, life is short. So spend time with yours while you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm busy watching this Western Kentucky Southern Miss game right now, Jordan, and it is
It's a beauty, man.
yeah, it's quite the barn burner. 4:51 left in the third quarter, 13-13. We're just great game here happening. Riveting college football among us. So hope everybody else out there is having a great Tuesday night. But without further ado, Jordan, let's go ahead and dive into the show tonight. Let's go ahead and get into the bowl season, bowl preview. College football playoffs are in the books, the first round at least. Clemson is going to be playing this Saturday in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl against the Penn State Nittany Lions. The Tigers will face off against them this Saturday. It's going to be certainly an interesting matchup, certainly a matchup that has its fair share of storylines with Tom Allen coming from Penn State last season. Their very deep playoff run, possibly a national championship. It could have been. It was super close for Penn State in order to play for the national championship. Obviously, they come up short. And then in pretty short order this season, their head coach, James Franklin, shown the door. After losing to Oregon and then dropping a few other games that they definitely should not have lost. They show James Franklin the door, and Penn State's program has kind of been in flex since then. Their coaching search did not go according to plan. That's for sure. Seemingly, they missed on their first few candidates, to say the least, but obviously ending up in a pretty good spot, I think, for Penn State. But these are two teams, Jordan, that preseason were tabbed as possible national championship contenders, and Clemson and Penn State. This would have been some pick for the national championship game. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen. Here we are in the Pinstripe Bowl. Both teams' seasons went not according to plan and were abject failures for the most part. Clemson obviously had a bit of a better season than Penn State, I guess. Not very much. Clemson coming in at 7-5, Penn State coming in at 6-6. So your thoughts on the Pinstripe Bowl, your thoughts on the matchup with Penn State, and just kind of those storylines coming into the game between two teams that obviously wanted a lot more out of the 2025 season. But again, here we are.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you summed it up really well. I mean, this is the game I think that if anybody feels like they have a good read on it, I think they're lying. With both of these teams coming in with the way they are with the opt-outs, both teams have a number of injuries as well. I mean, it's really just kind of a coin toss. I think Clemson is currently favored by a field goal. Don't really, think much of that. I don't. One way or the other. The betting line doesn't really scream like one that Vegas is super confident in. One of the angles to look at this game is really just kind of the motivation factor for both of these teams. I mean, in some ways, both teams have a lot of motivation to win, and then in other ways, you can see why one team might underperform in this game. I think for Penn State, it's interesting because their interim head coach Terry Smith. He's not coaching for his opportunity to get the head coaching job. He is, with Matt Campbell coming in the program under a coaching transition, he kind of has like nothing to lose in this game. And that's one of the things that makes it interesting is that going to make him, call the game, just balls to the wall. We're going to do whatever it takes to win this football game. Or it's like, if we win, we win. That's great. If we lose, we lose. That's all right too. I mean, Terry Smith will be on staff on Matt Campbell's staff next year, so that does make things a little bit more interesting because it's not he's going to be coaching a lot of these players in this game next year, just not as the head coach. But I question, where Penn State, from a mentality standpoint is. I think they really did a good job. I think Terry Smith did a really good job the back half of the season, and Penn State closed out kind of like Clemson on a really nice note, kind of under the radar, just because of how disastrous their season started. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Because I just it's hard for me to kind of get a sense of where they are. I mean, when you look at some of the players that are playing, like Katron Allen, that kind of speaks to the fact that maybe this team is going to be ready to play on Saturday. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, it's really hard to get a read on this bowl in particular, but really any bowl game
Yeah,
outside of the playoffs. I mean,
true.
outside of the playoffs, you got a ton of opt outs. You got players heading off to the NFL. You got coaching changes. You got turmoil in various staffs, and Clemson's hasn't been, you know, shooken up to the point where Penn State's has. But again, I mean, Clemson's going to be without, I think, 27 scholarship players in this game. And that's a mixture of guys going off to the NFL and going for that next level opportunity. That's a mixture of guys that have already entered the transfer portal. And then that's guys that are out just due to injury as well. And both teams are kind of dealing with that. But Clemson, 27 scholarship players not playing in this game. So for one, that tells you that depth is going to be an issue. You're not going to be able to rotate guys in and out like you're accustomed to. Some of your top guys that you depended on throughout the season for Clemson are not going to be playing in this game. And it's really hard to get a read on what Clemson is going to look like in this game. Obviously, there have been no coaching changes as far as on-field coaches for Clemson as of yet, although much to the grin of the fan base there. The fan base definitely wants to see some coaching changes, but none of those have happened as of yet. So I guess you have a bit of a plus side there that Penn State doesn't. But you're going to be missing a ton of guys. Penn State's going to be missing a ton of guys. It's really hard to get a read on this game. Clemson's a 3.5-point favorite. However, I think this is going to be a tough game for Clemson. I really do. I think it's going to be a game where you're going to see a lot of players that you have yet to see play meaningful snaps this season. You're going to have to depend on those players to play a very instrumental role against Penn State. And although Penn State had the season that they did, and they're struggling with opt-outs and transfers and all that kind of stuff, I do think they are maybe in a little bit better situation personnel-wise than maybe Clemson is. But again, two teams that are dealing with a lot of missing players, two teams that are dealing with a lot of disappointment from how the season played out versus how they thought it was going to play out. But again, I see Clemson probably struggling a bit in this game from both ends. They're missing a couple key defensive players. They're missing some key offensive players, most notably Antonio Williams will not be playing in this game. We've seen this Clemson offense when Antonio Williams is not in the lineup, and it looks vastly different from when he is in the lineup. And then, on the other side of the ball, you're missing Peter Woods and TJ Parker and Avion Terrell. And you got transfers at safety, and safety's already been a huge concern for Clemson and a position that has not performed well this season. And you're missing guys that have played a lot of snaps there this year. And some could say, well, maybe let's just see what's behind them. But it begs the question, if the guys in front of them are gone and they didn't play particularly well, what do you have hope for what is behind them? So lots of big question marks for Clemson coming into this game. I see them struggling. I see this being kind of a sloppy game, a game that is going to be filled with some mistakes and some frustration from fans. And I'm hoping Clemson can pull out a W in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to kind of dive into this Penn State defense, this Penn State team in general. I mean, this is a team that I think they do have a lot of guys that, kind of showed their stuff a little bit. They've played a lot of young players to the back half of the season. Obviously, with Drew Aller suffering a season-ending injury, I mean that thrust Ethan Grunkemeyer into the spotlight a little bit. If that name sounds familiar, Clemson did kind of flirt with him in the recruiting process and never really got much past. Yeah, I don't even remember if Clemson offered, but he was involved at one point. So that'll be interesting. But he's a guy that I think has shown some stuff the last few weeks. Penn State is a team that's going to lean on their run game first and foremost, with Katron Allen having a 1,000-yard season, being their leading rusher. And him choosing to suit up in this game, I think, is a big deal. He is a back that I think this Clemson defense, with how thin they're going to be up front, they're going to have some struggles with. And Penn State is certainly going to lean on their run game. But Ethan Grunkemeyer is a kid with a lot of arm talent. He hit some explosive plays. He's not going to throw the ball a ton, but he actually had a better yards per attempt than Drew Aller did, or had through his time during the season. So I think it was 7.5 yards per attempt for Ethan Grunkemeyer and 6.9 for Drew Aller. So he's actually hit the big play a little bit more better than Drew Aller did this year. And that's interesting with Penn State's receiver situation. But I think they probably had better receivers than maybe a lot of people have given them credit for, because they just other aspects of that team just did not click. But I think they have some young players that I think are going to get some more shine, and I'm interested to see who kind of steps up. I know Penn State is really high on Kobe Howard. He's a kid that hit some big plays in some of their final games. Not a ton of volume, but he's looked pretty good. Their tight end, who I'm blanking on the name right now, it's a name that is a really hard to pronounce last name. Let me pull it up, because I'm not even going to try to. I'm not even going to try to pull it up. Let me see. Who is it? I'll find it later. But get to the point, I think that their passing game has certainly taken some steps forward in the last few games. And I think with how thin Clemson's going to be up front, no Peter Woods, no TJ Parker, going to be playing a lot of guys. A lot of thinness at linebacker and in the secondary, really all three levels. I mean, you're going to be stressed a lot with this defense. So I have my concerns that, to kind of put a long point short, this is a defense that I think might not be prepared for what Penn State does well in the run game. And they're facing a quarterback that's not going to be afraid to push the ball downfield, and that worries me a little bit. So I think this is a game where you're going to have some guys step up that haven't stepped up at times this season, and you're going to need some guys that haven't played a bunch to make plays this year. Whether it's at defensive end, where you're going to see more of guys like Darian Mayo and Marcus Dixon and a lot of the younger guys in that defensive end rotation. It's going to be tough because you just don't really know what you have there. And then at defensive tackle, you'll see plenty of Evan Brown Schuler and Champ Thompson. And so it's going to be a lot of new faces that I think you're going to need some guys that just have not shown a bunch this year to step up and play really well. Because otherwise, I mean, who do you trust on this defense other than Sammy Brown to get hands on Katron Allen and bring him to the ground? I don't know. I don't know if that guy's on the roster.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you kind of summed it up perfectly there as far as what Penn State's game plan is going to be coming into the game. Obviously, this is not a team that's going to come in and try to just throw the ball all over the yard on Clemson, which maybe kind of helps you when it comes to the back end of Clemson's defense and some of the questions at safety there and the missing piece of Avion Terrell and things like that. So I think that kind of plays into Clemson's hand a bit. But you mentioned Katron Allen, a 1,300-yard back coming in to this game. He's going to play. They're going to run the ball early. They're going to run the ball often, and they're going to go after a depleted Clemson Tigers defensive line and a defensive line that's going to be missing majority of their star power. Really, the only star power they're going to have left, or really the only starting defensive lineman they're going to have left, is Will Helt, transfer out of Purdue last season, probably Clemson's most consistent defensive lineman in 2025. However, he's going to be out there alone. Yes, you will have guys like Jaheim Lawson out there. Yes, you will have guys at defensive tackle that have played significant snaps this season. But again, new starting roles for all of those guys, right? And you're going against a team that runs the ball extremely well. And Clemson, at times has not been great at defending that run. And when you think about a 1,300-yard back coming into this game, you got some big question marks there, right? How consistently can Clemson stop this run game? And if they can't, it's going to turn into a field possession type of game. It's going to be a grinded out kind of game. It's going to be a low possession type of game, I believe. And can Clemson's offense do enough to stay in that game and make it competitive and have a chance to win towards the end? I think this is going to be a close game for the entire game. I think this game's probably going to be won in the fourth quarter, and it's probably going to be won by the team that can control the ball and possess the ball the most. And on paper, that certainly looks like the Penn State Nittany Lions, unfortunately, for the Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, at this matchup, it's like, okay, who has the best overall offensive weapon in this game? I think that answer is Penn State.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that with the new looks, the new faces on defense. I wonder what they're going to do to be able to stop that, because I don't have a ton of confidence. As much as the run defense largely has improved this year, with this many new guys playing in new roles, I am not really all that comfortable with where things stand and their ability to take down one of the better backs in college football. I don't really see it. So that's the thing where I think this matchup is really not in favor of Clemson, despite Penn State certainly dealing with their fair share of opt-outs and missing players. I think they have the best. I think they have the best offensive weapon, and are probably the best player overall on either side of the ball, you could argue, and that's scary. That's scary. But flipping to Clemson's offense versus this Penn State defense, I definitely think this is where you're going to have to win the game. I think. I think you have the advantage at quarterback. Just having that experience in K. Klubnik, I think this is going to be his 40th career start. Guy that has played a lot of football. I think just having that experience in a game like this helps. But as you mentioned, no Antonio Williams. Obviously, no, you haven't had Bryant Wesco since the SMU game. It's you're not going to be playing with the same caliber of weapons and the comfortability of K. Klubnik in the pocket and running this offense. It's night and day when Antonio Williams isn't on the field.
Yep.
So I think in the South Carolina game you saw a good dosage of TJ Moore. Hope to see that some more. Hope to see some of the younger receivers get in. Garrett Riley was really positive about Juju Preston, who I think you could see a decent bit of on special teams. I wonder how many snaps he gets at receiver. I'd like to see it. He's a guy that has been interesting since he's come on the campus, because he came in as literally the smallest player on the roster. And so, but they've done a good job and they've been complimentary of his work ethic. And because, this is a guy that holds several state of Virginia high school receiving records.
Right.
This is a kid that can play. So just seeing him kind of where he fits in terms of the snap count at receiver with Antonio Williams and Bryant Wesco not being there. What do you get from what do you get from the other guys, Cole Turner, Tristan Smith? It's gonna tell you a lot. But I think honestly the key for Clemson's success offensively, you got to throw the ball to Christian Beneker, man. I mean, this is if there's going to be a game this season where Christian Beneker is a guy that's heavily featured in the offensive game plan, I think this has got to be the game because Penn State does have questions of depth at defensive line and linebacker right now. Obviously, they're not going to have their stud defensive tackle Zane Durant. He's not. I think that's a huge help for, up the middle for this Clemson offensive line. That's going to be playing some new guys as well. And they had throughout the season, they just have not had a ton of depth at linebacker. So, I mean, if you're going to get some favorable matchups there, you got to take advantage of it. Yes, because Penn State will take advantage of their favorable matchups. So I think I think Christian Beneker has to be a feature of this offense. This is a game where he could really shine. And I feel like he's been criminally underused to this point of the season. And now's the time to do it, man. I mean, if you want to build some momentum in the next year, and I mean, I think he's, pacing himself to be your tight end one next year. As much as I love Olsen Pat Henry, but obviously he's dealing with his setback of injury. I think this is the game you have to feature him. I mean, I don't know what you think. Is there a guy on this Clemson offense that you think needs to touch the football a ton? Because I think it's got to be. I think it's got to be him. Honestly, I think he's the X factor in this one.
Yeah, I think you kind of outlined the two guys perfectly there that are going to be huge factors in whether Clemson's offense has success in this game or they don't. Obviously, it starts at the quarterback position with Cade Klubnik. It's going to vastly depend on how he plays in this game, and we've seen a wide variety of Cade Klubnik throughout his Clemson tenure. We've seen him be surgical and just a good decision maker, and we've seen the exact opposite of that. What is he going to be in this game? I'm a little worried about it because I think the offensive line is going to be greatly hampered in this game. There's a ton of injuries along the offensive line. We're going to be starting yet another group or a mix of this offensive line in this game. That's certainly a point of concern for this Clemson offense. Tyler Brown, I think, as you mentioned, is going to be huge, right? This could be the Tyler Brown coming out party or the, hey, remember who I am party because of the season that he had a couple years ago as a freshman. He was kind of the go-to guy, spent his sophomore season completely injured, and then obviously hasn't played nearly as many snaps as he did his freshman season this season because of Antonio Williams, obviously playing the same position as him. You're not going to take Antonio Williams off the field, right? So this could be a preview of what that slot position could look like for next season in Tyler Brown. Christian Beneker is another big one. He's going to be a matchup nightmare for Penn State. Could be a guy that could exploit that defense a bit. The one drawback for me with Christian Beneker in the tight end position is not the ability to exploit that position, but Garrett Riley's willingness to exploit the tight ends and their ability to hurt Penn State in that passing game. Clemson has just been a team that has not used the tight ends well all season. Not for lack of them making plays when they've had their moments. I mean, there's been circus catches by Olsen Pat Henry. Christian Beneker's had a lot of success when he's gone to this season. I just think Clemson doesn't use the tight end position enough. Are they going to use it in this game? I don't know. Is Garrett Riley going to use them in this game to kind of supplement for, maybe the lack of running game that you have or whatever the case may be, right? So I think that's going to be an interesting factor to watch. Certainly a guy that could affect the game in a very positive way. But again, that offensive line not being whole could be kind of an issue for the Tigers on Saturday when it comes to Penn State and consistently moving the football. We know when Cade Klubnik gets pressured a lot, he tends to retreat in the pocket. He tends to make bad decisions. So I think that's going to be a big key to this game. How clean can they keep Cade Klubnik? How comfortable can he be in that pocket? Because when he is, he's really dynamic. When he's not comfortable, he makes a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we didn't really mention, and something, I mean, it just happened today, well, two things that happened today for Penn State. Freshman defensive end Chaz Coleman, a guy that they've been really high on, he just entered the transfer portal, a guy you would have expected to see a decent bit in the bowl game today. And then I think the biggest thing today, maybe getting a little help from your little brothers down the road. South Carolina went and took their Penn State's defensive line coach, Deion Barnes, a guy that coached guys like Chop Robinson and not Micah Parsons. Who's that other? Or did he coach Micah Parsons? I think he might have.
He might have.
He's been there a while.
He might have coached Micah Parsons. I don't know if he was there that long ago, but he might have coached Micah Parsons.
I know he's been there a decent bit, maybe at least, I don't know. But anyway, he's coached some really talented Penn State defensive linemen. He's been there a while. So I know he coached Chop Robinson. I can't remember if he coached Micah Parsons. But he's a guy that has been he's been in that program a while. So, I mean, you have to wonder, what does that mean for a Penn State defensive line that's already kind of thin right now, with guys opting out and guys leaving. Also, they're not going to have their best safeties, Akee Wheatley. So, I mean, I think those are things that, if Penn State's going to take advantage of your weaknesses, you got to go and take advantage of theirs. I mean, I definitely want Clemson to lean on their run game and get because I think this offense just flat out operates better when they're getting, consistent yardage. It doesn't have to be a 200-yard rushing day. I don't know if that's in the cards for this group, but they need to be able to keep Penn State's defense honest, and that way they're forced to dedicate more resources to the run and leave some of their younger defensive backs in coverage, because I do think you're not lacking in receiving talent. I mean, in weapons to throw the football to down the field. So, yeah, I mean, I wonder how those departures affects Penn State's game plan, because these are things that are happening pretty on a pretty short turnaround. I mean, both teams are already up in New York right now, so it's going to be interesting to see where kind of what the headspace is for the Penn State players, especially on that defensive line, because, like I said, Deion Barnes is a guy that's been well respected in the industry and in college football, a guy that's coached and recruited a lot of great players.
Yeah.
And he was kind of the anchor of, some of the better defensive lines in the country the last few years. So does Penn State have more guys that are just like, all right, if he's not going to be here, I'm not going to play either, because that wouldn't necessarily surprise me either. So, I think there's a lot of moving pieces with this game that makes you wonder just kind of where the headspace is for both of these teams.
Absolutely. And you got another angle to think of for Penn State is some of these guys are debuting or basically putting their resume out there for a new coaching staff that's coming into Penn State, right? And they're trying to, some of the guys that are playing are, I think, going to try to put their best foot forward when it comes to trying to impress a new coaching staff and try to lock in their spots and their, where their pecking order is going to be as far as the roster and what that new coaching staff thinks of them. So I think there is a little bit of motivation there for the players that are playing there on Penn State that maybe is not there for a team in Clemson coming in. So lots, I mean, honestly, most of the bowl games, this one included, is kind of a crapshoot when you're trying to pick it and when you're trying to figure out how teams are going to play, because they just look so vastly different than they did during the season as far as roster construction, right? There's so many guys missing. There's so much coaching churn and coaching turnover. And, I mean, these teams just aren't the same as they were in the regular season. And regardless of how disappointing each team was, you could get a read on this game if everything was the same as it was during the regular season, but it's not. These are essentially two brand new teams, and you're essentially trying to predict a season opener at this point because the rosters are going to look that different heading into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. How much do you think weather is going to play a factor in this game? I don't know. I haven't actually looked at
I saw Death Valley Tiger just put in the comment section. Sounds like there might be a snowstorm Friday into Saturday. So if that's the case, it could be a huge factor in this game. I mean, if there's a snowstorm during the game or before the game or whatever the case may be, that could certainly affect your ability to spread it out and push the ball down the field, which unfortunately I think plays into the hands of Penn State because they are going to be a team that comes in. They're going to try to control the ball. They're going to try to churn the clock. They're going to try to play a field position type of game, I believe, and really challenge Clemson up front to stop the running game. So if weather is a factor, I think that plays into Penn State's hands a lot more than it does Clemson's hands. Because I think Clemson is going to obviously rely on the passing game much more than Penn State is planning on relying on the passing game.
Yeah, and honestly, based off of what I'm reading right now, according to the Greenville News, the high is expected to be 34 degrees with a 60% chance of precipitation.
Oh boy,
that's hovering right. That's hovering right at snow territory, and definitely going to be some icy conditions. So, I mean, that makes you wonder. I mean, obviously Penn State being in the Big Ten, certainly as a program, just flat out have more experience in those types of games. How will Clemson, fare in this type of weather? I mean, shoot, when's the last time Clemson has traveled this far up north for a game?
Yes. I mean, it's been. They travel up to Syracuse.
DC,
but Syracuse, that game happens in a dome. So
like it's climate controlled.
Right. It's not really a factor. Weather is never a factor when you travel up to Syracuse. So
I mean they're not going to be playing indoors in a Yankee Stadium. So I mean it's going to be. So it's going to be different for this group. The BC trip, I don't even that's not farther north. So I mean, what do you do? So like I wonder, like how do you go about preparing for that? I mean, asking these questions now, I hope they've already figured that out on their end because
one would hope that we already have a game plan for that. But we shall see.
But if you do get snowy conditions in this game, I mean, all the more importance there will be, and all the more emphasis both teams will have on the run game. And unfortunately, Penn State has the better back. As much as I love Adam Randall and what he's done this season, and he's not K-Tron out. That's no. But thank God Nick Singleton decided to sit out because then you'd be dealing with one of the best 1-2 punches in college football. But luckily you only have to deal with one of the good running backs, so that's good. With all of these angles, this is a game that I think in a lot of ways does not favor Clemson. I do think there's a path to victory, certainly for this team. I do think, leaning on the fact you have the more experienced quarterback, leaning on the fact that, obviously you have your head coach. I mean, you have program experience. Those are things that you have. Continuity on the coaching staff, at least for this game, is in favor of Clemson. Penn State certainly, with going through a coaching transition, they've overturned a lot of assistant coaches. and some of them have left, like Deion Barnes today. So guys are. It's going to be a lot of guys in new roles and guys that aren't, that haven't been coaching the entire season in certain roles. So it's going to be interesting. But obviously the weather playing up north, Penn State certainly has plenty of experience doing that. Clemson, Clemson is the team with the greater amount of opt-outs, at least especially starting. Because Penn State, they don't have their quarterback, but they're going to be playing a lot of their receivers. Starting receivers are going to be playing. Trevor Pena, their leading receiver is back. Obviously, they're going to have their starting running back, and then so it's a tough game to call, and it's not one that I personally feel great about. When you consider all the factors and with what we've seen from this team this year. These type of conditions, these type of circumstances, and knowing what we know about the depth on this football team, it makes me nervous. That's for sure. Yeah. Heading into Saturday.
Yeah, certainly. I think nervous is definitely an emotion that a lot of Clemson fans are having heading into this game. For just the game and then what's to come for this Clemson Tiger program. But, Jordan, I think we've broke it down enough and we've talked about the various matchups and everything. So now I guess we'll get to our pick portion of the Pinstripe Bowl preview. Jordan, who do you got winning this game? And what is your potential score? And before you give yours, in the comment section right now in the live chat, let me know who you think's going to win, what your guys' score prediction is, while me and Jordan kind of give our score predictions and how we see this game going as far as the scoreboard goes.
Yeah, I've been this is a tough game to call for all the reasons we laid out.
Yeah.
The conditions on Saturday will definitely play could potentially play a role in how this game is played. If it's going to be a ball control, possession, run the football type of game, I think it's going to be somewhat low scoring, even though both defenses have a lot of guys missing. I think Penn State's probably in better shape to win this game, just from the nature of the game that is being played, and obviously location and the weather I think is going to play a factor. I do think it's going to be close. I don't think either team is really going to blow the other one out. It just doesn't seem like that type of game. And I think Cade Klubnik's experience will I think he'll be able to create some plays, but then I think there will also be some moments that we've seen from him throughout his career where he just misses a guy or it doesn't go through his reads. He looks uncomfortable, especially not having Antonio Williams out there. The numbers show it. The numbers don't lie with Antonio Williams on the field versus not. It's night and day.
Yeah.
And so that makes me uncomfortable. Now, if Cade learns to trust his other guys, if we see a heavy dose of TJ Moore and Christian Bentaker and some of the other guys, we've mentioned Tyler Brown, who will certainly be playing in a bigger role, and hopefully we'll get to see more of on Saturday. If he learns to lean on those guys and Clemson is getting a respectable amount of yardage in the run game with Adam Randall and some of the backs deeper in the depth chart, there's a path to victory here, and maybe you squeeze one out. But I'm just not comfortable saying that. I got Penn State winning 20, Clemson 17.
Yep. I think that's certainly a score that definitely could happen. I've kind of gone back and forth on this game. It's really hard to pick who's going to win, but because of the brand of football that I think Penn State's going to come into this game with clock control, low possessions, I think they're going to challenge Clemson up front, and I don't know if Clemson's going to have enough. Cade Klubnik in this game, I think he's going to give it all that he has. I do think he's going to make some mistakes in this game. I think, you could see the Cade Klubnik show up that tries to do too much. And when he does try to do too much, he makes some fatal mistakes. So I got Penn State 23, Clemson 20. I got the Tigers losing by a field goal. Like I said, I think it's going to be a rock fight. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a field possession type of game. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of field goals in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, again, a low possession type of game. And because of the style of game that I think it's going to be, unfortunately, I think that favors Penn State and their playing style. So that's why I got Penn State 23, Clemson 20. I think, unfortunately, Clemson drops this game and finishes up the season 7-6. And Penn State will obviously be 7-6 as well at that point in time. So here's to the preseason national championship, a.k.a. the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl.
Amen, brother. Amen. Obviously, I think you and I see this game very, very similar with how our scores, our score predictions. So, like we said, this is a tough game to read. If you told me on Sunday morning that Clemson, they won the game, wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, they absolutely can win this football game. But
I think our scores are indicative of we won't be surprised if either team wins. Yeah. But just by the style of game that we think this is going to be, I think Penn State's going to outlast Clemson. But I do think it's going to be close. It's going to be a fourth quarter game. But I think ultimately that running game of Penn State is going to be the difference maker in the game.
Yeah.
That's just how I see it going.
Yeah, so. I agree. Katron Allen scares me in this game. I don't see he's going to be tough. He's the best back. You have not seen a back that of his caliber all season.
No.
I don't know if
you're meeting the best back of your season, missing a large portion of your starting defense.
Yeah.
I think you're missing,
especially in the front seven.
I think you're missing 14 scholarship guys on defense. Yeah. So big deal, deal when it comes to stopping a guy like that. So that's how we see it playing out, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Who's going to win and what is your score? For the most up-to-date news on all things Voice of College Football, make sure you're checking out vocfb.com. That's vocfb.com, your one-stop shop for all things Voice of College Football, your one-stop shop for all things Clemson at the Voice of College Football. We got our show schedule there off to the left, all the articles that are written by people that are involved with the Voice of College Football Network, and those that do the various podcasts that we have. So go check it out. You got forums over there. You got team pages. You got the show schedules, all of that stuff. So go check out vocfb.com and let us know what you think of the website. Jordan, we've heard from several players and coaches this past week leading up to the Pinstripe Bowl. Most notably, we heard from defensive coordinator Tom Allen and kind of his view on the game. And more specifically, we heard about his view on the portal and what this defense is going to need heading into 2026. I think Tom Allen made it very clear that this defense is going to need some additions via the transfer portal in order to get where he wants them to go in 2026. Your thoughts on kind of his comments? Obviously, he said, ultimately it's up to the head coach and what he believes and what he thinks we need. But I think Tom Allen made it very clear that he is going to be looking to lean into the portal this offseason to supplement his defense heading into 2026.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, it's been one of the more interesting things, kind of listening to the way he's gone about talking about it and then listening to, Dabo's comments. It really makes you wonder kind of where the push and pull is whether there is a push and pull or whether this is just, forward facing or at least, to our eyes, we're seeing like a conflict, but internally there is agreement. I don't know, but Tom Allen, based off of reports, Tom Allen he's very much all in on going out and getting a number of guys out of the portal to rebuild this defense. And one of the things that we saw most consistently, one of the things that was expressed most consistently throughout the season about this defense was they didn't have enough speed. They didn't have enough guys that really loved football. Those were the two things. Actually three things, because they didn't have enough length either. Yeah. Length, speed, and love for the game. I think those are all three things that feel like great things to have for a defensive player, and it just seemed like Clemson didn't have enough of it. And I think the tape does show that. Just the team speed in general is, even though as much as it was propped up, during the offseason, they just, when out there on the field, the guys were not always in position. Guys were looking around confused, not sure where they needed to be, slow to the ball, loafing at times. It just was not a good look. I think obviously you saw some things get cleaned up a little bit when Thomas Allen took on a bigger role in the secondary and in the defense in general. Maybe you see some continuity there and some continuation there. There's a lot of agreement and understanding and belief that Thomas Allen will be taking on a bigger role in 2026 in this Clemson defense. I think having that voice, also supporting Tom Allen in regards to going out and getting guys out of the transfer portal. I think, I don't see any way Clemson and Dabo can avoid not going and getting guys. I think you have to. Obviously with all the depth concerns that you're having heading into next year with the guys that are departing, I don't think you have a choice first and foremost. But also, I just think, in terms of changing the makeup of this defense, the height, weight, speed, that's what defense is. A lot of defense is having size, speed, and length. Because beyond that, everything else is coachable, and if you have the athletes, usually you'll be pretty good. That it's more so than offense, where you can scheme around the guy not being the most athletic. It's not really much you can do if your corner can't run with guys in space, or your linebacker can't cover, or is a liability out there in coverage. There's just not much you can do. Your safeties are slow. There's not really much you can do to scheme around things like that. So I think that's the biggest goal for this defense, is just getting dudes again. You didn't have enough of that.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of laid it out perfectly there. And this is a Clemson defense that's got a lot of holes. Let's be completely honest. You've had a couple defensive backs enter the transfer portal. You've had a couple linebackers enter the transfer portal. And you have a safety group that underperformed in a big way in 2025. And it wasn't a banner year for them. And you're losing people at that position that underperformed already. So I think that just speaks to the fact that you have to replace via the transfer portal, and Clemson's going to have to bring in a pretty hefty class via the transfer portal this year, I think, if they're going to be competitive in 2026. And therein lies the question, right? How competitive does Clemson want to be in 2026? Because if you want to be competitive, you're going to have to go to the transfer portal in a big way. And I'm not saying you got to bring in 20 players or anything crazy like that, right? But, maybe 8 to 10 players is the number that Clemson needs to bring in. I think somewhere around that number is probably where Clemson should land. But again, it remains to be seen how heavy they will pursue players and how heavy they will dabble in this transfer portal season when it opens up come the 2nd of January. But I certainly think this is the season. If you are going to utilize the portal in a big way, there's no other season that has been more glaring that Clemson needs to go to the portal other than this season right here. There are just too many holes There's no high school talent out there to fill those holes. And although Clemson brought in a serviceable recruiting class, it wasn't a great recruiting class, but it wasn't a bad recruiting class at all. It was a good recruiting class, but you still have a lot of holes to fill. You can't rely on freshmen to fill those. There's no high school talent out there to go get. You have to go to the portal to fill this roster in 2026 and make it a competitive roster. So yeah. I think that's what Tom Allen was speaking to. He's talked about this several times in the media about the lack of length, speed, and those things along the defensive side of the ball. And I think he's got some personnel issues when it comes to executing what he wants to do on defense. And I think that's important that we fill those holes and really see what Tom Allen can do when he has the athletes that he needs to truly execute his system at a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, defense is. I mean, you got to have the athletes, man, and you didn't have that, and the guys just flat out. Some of them just did not want it enough. I'm not saying they didn't try. That's like I don't think I didn't watch too many Clemson games where I felt like, guys were just flat out not giving any effort, but it was just guys. You just didn't have the want to. I think that you thought you were going to see out of this group, and it wasn't everybody. There were certainly players that were out there, playing their tails off, but it was few and far between. The leadership was just not where you had hoped it would have been. All those things combined, it was just not a good product for much of the season. Kudos to them for bowing up and playing much better down the stretch, but too little too late when this was supposed to be one of the best defenses in college football, and you end up just kind of, maybe a little bit, better than last year in some areas, but in some ways it was a lot of the same because it was the same players from last year, and that's the thing that was frustrating, and I think was really eye opening for us as fans and even the coaches that we just don't have the guys that we thought we did. Right. I think hopefully Dabo has realized that. And I think, based off of, early preliminary discussions and reports, Clemson is, they are laying the groundwork to go and try and potentially, get some guys that can really help this team on defense next year. Offense, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Talk about that at a later date.
Yeah.
All right, guys, make sure you're checking out vocfb.com or vocfb-shop. That's right. The Voice of College Football has our very own merch. You can see it right here up on the screen. We got Clemson Voice of College Football merch, hats, T-shirts, polos, tumblers, coffee cups, koozies, everything that you could want over on the site, vocfb-shop. That's vocfb-shop. Go check it out. Get your Clemson merch today. Speaking of the transfer portal, one of the biggest questions that I hear Clemson fans talk about on your various forums across the internet and comment sections and things of that nature is, what are Clemson's chances of taking a portal quarterback this offseason? Is Christopher Vezina going to be the guy? Is Clemson going to go with Chris Denson? Who's going to be the quarterback in 2026 once Cade Klubnik heads off to the next level and we see what his opportunities are going to be in the NFL? Everybody knows in 2026, Clemson will have a new starting quarterback. It will not be Cade Klubnik. Will it be Christopher Vezina? Will it be Chris Denson? Will it be some random portal quarterback that is yet on the roster? Jordan, your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I don't know. And it's funny because I picked, I was the one that said that I wanted to talk about this tonight. But I mean, the truth is we don't really know at this point. I mean, it seems like I've been getting the most mixed signals about this whole thing. I mean, Dabo, forward facing has been, complimentary of the quarterback room, and has given you the impression that, hey, he's just going to roll with his guys next year. I mean, you're bringing in, Tate Reynolds and Brock Bradley, and you couple them with Vizina and Chris Denson, and that you have yourself a quarterback room. But I mean, I don't know. I'm still a little bit more skeptical of that. They're going to just stand pat with where things stand. I don't know. I certainly think there's a world where Chris Vizina is is your starting quarterback in 2026, and maybe you're successful. I think a lot of this also depends on with the future of the offensive coordinator position, which is still in limbo a little bit. Maybe I'm of the belief as time goes on that Garrett Riley probably will be your offensive coordinator in 2026, but I don't think that's necessarily a done deal yet. I think those conversations are, and that decision is still kind of being weighed right now by Dabo Swinney. But I don't know, man. Listen, okay, if I'm Dabo Swinney, if I'm keeping Garrett Riley, I'm for one more season, I'm letting him go get somebody. I think there's a lot of reasons. If I'm not going to fire the guy, I'm going to let him get a guy that he wants. I don't necessarily know that Garrett Riley doesn't think he can win with Chris Vizina, but I definitely think. I mean, I'd rather go and certainly would rather go and get a guy that I feel really excited about and comfortable with in my system.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's certainly a number of high value market, and not even just high value, but really strong quarterbacks entering the portal this off season. I mean, there are options there. It's
a big portal class for the quarterback.
Exactly. So I mean, it's not like this is one of those years where you're like, I don't really know, man. But listen, I'm not as against the idea of Garrett Riley coming back as some people. I would rather have them make a change, to be quite honest with you. And that's not something I usually come out and say, but I'm kind of over it a little bit. But I'm not totally against Garrett Riley coming back, because again, I don't think that those struggles last season were all his fault, which I think any sensible Clemson fan would agree. I mean, there are things beyond, Garrett Riley that was wrong with this offense. I mean, whether it was Cade Klubnik, whether it was the offensive line underperforming, there were a lot of things that you can attribute to why this offense, sputtered the way it did a lot of this past season. So, I'm not necessarily like, I don't think you're oh man, we're screwed if Garrett Riley comes back. I don't think that's the case, but I really think that if you're going to give this one more go, I think you got to let him go and get somebody. That's just me. I don't know if you agree, but like I really think that,
look,
if you're going to give a guy a chance, give a guy a real chance.
Yeah, I've been of the opinion for quite some time now that Clemson's starting quarterback is not on the roster currently for 2026. Now, with that said, am I 100% certain that Clemson's going to go get a portal quarterback? No, I'm not.
No.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know if they are, if they aren't. What I will say is I hope they go get a portal quarterback. I think if you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to be competitive and win the most games in 2026, I think that requires a portal quarterback. Again, I'm not trying to throw shade at Christopher Vizina. I'm not trying to throw shade at Chris Denson. I'm not trying to throw shade at any of the quarterbacks coming in this season. However, I don't think those quarterbacks are going to give you the best chance to be as successful as you can be in 2026. I just don't. I think Christopher Vizina is a great guy. I think he does have some talent. Do I trust to roll the dice with him in 2026? Me personally, no, I don't. He's had flashes of, you kind of see the talent there. You kind of see why they recruited him. But I think far too often you see why he's not the guy. And I think you have much more examples of that than you do of his talent being on display. So for those reasons, I think Clemson has to go get a quarterback. And to your point, if you're going to keep Garrett Riley, I think that makes perfect sense. Let him go get a dude. Let him go get a quarterback that he truly believes can run his system at the highest level possible. And then see what you got, right? I'm not a proponent of running it back with your current offensive coordinator. And again, much like you, it's not something that I come on here and say a lot. Like I don't make a habit of calling for people's jobs, or you don't revel in people getting fired or anything like that. But I would prefer Clemson go find a new offensive coordinator. However, to your point, if you're going to run it back with Garrett Riley, and the further along that this drags, it seems like Garrett Riley's going to be the offensive coordinator, whether Clemson fans like it or not, in 2026. I agree with you, Jordan. I think you let him go handpick his quarterback. And then in 2026, there's no excuses. You're going to have a lot at wide receiver still, as long as you can hold on to all those guys, right? You're going to have a good piece at running back in Gideon Davison, right? You're going to have, presumably whatever quarterback you pick via the transfer portal, and you're probably going to have an improved offensive line under the tutelage of Matt Luke. So there shouldn't be any excuses in 2026, right? So if you're going to run it back, I agree with you, Jordan. You got to go let him get his guy. Whoever he thinks his guy is, go get it, go pay the money, and roll the dice and see what happens. Other than that, move on. Go get a new offensive coordinator. But I still think you need a portal quarterback at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think either way, like you just said, I mean, either way, if you let Garrett Riley go, I mean, I don't feel any different about the quarterback room. I still think you need to go get somebody. But I mean, I think that's even more important. I mean, if you go and get, bring in a guy, you let go of Garrett Riley and you go get somebody. I think it's even more important that you let them, pick somebody, because now that guy's walking into a room of guys that he hasn't recruited at all, and more than likely. Unless he, happened to recruit those players at the school he came from. Yeah. But so I don't see any way where rolling the dice with the room as it stands right now is a smart decision for winning football games in 2026. Right. I just don't. It doesn't compute in my head. Have not seen anything worth, that being a legitimate, course of action. And that now, would it surprise me if they go and do that anyway? No, it wouldn't, because this is Clemson and this is Dabo Swinney we're talking about. But at the end of the day, if you care about winning football games and bouncing back from this, what has been a failure of a season, as we've said, you and I both said multiple times, no matter how well they close the season, even if they win on Saturday, this has been an abject failure of a season with how much you invested in this roster, the coaching staff, all the changes that you made, in terms of your quote unquote front office structure, all the investment. This was by a far cry from what the season you should have had. If you're going to bounce back from a season like that, running it back, essentially running it back with how things stand right now, you're begging for another season like this, if not worse.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have you hold pat with everything that you have right now, with the offensive coordinator, the quarterback position, and everything. I think you're going to have a lot of very annoyed and disappointed Clemson fans heading into 2026, which is going to make the noise a whole lot louder when things don't go your way. So We shall see. Will Clemson go to the portal for a quarterback? Will they go to the portal and add 8 to 10 players? Those questions have yet to be answered. Will the coaching staff look any different than it does right now? I don't know. The longer we get removed from the season being over, the less I think that there are going to be wholesale changes on that coaching staff. And that was not my opinion when the season ended. But But unfortunately, eventually you got to face the music and realize that those changes are not coming. But maybe we save that for next week and talk about our opinions on coaching staff changes in the future.
Yeah.
All right, make sure you're searching Clemson Live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts from. Search Clemson Live. All of our long-form content's on there. All of our videos are on there in podcast form. So make sure you're searching Clemson Live. Rate, review, subscribe over there, whether you're on a long drive, on a run, working out, whenever you like to listen to your podcast. Make sure you're searching Clemson Live and giving us a follow and listen over there. We do appreciate it. While you're doing your holiday shopping, make sure you're using the Amazon link. Directly under this video, there's an Amazon link. As you're checking out, simply copy the link, paste it in your checkout portion of Amazon, and nothing changes for you. It just simply gives the channel and the Voice of College Football as a whole a little bit of a kickback. So we appreciate your support on that. With that said, we got 17 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. During bowl season, we continue to do this show throughout all of the offseason. Hope you guys will stick it out with us. And with that said, Jordan, it's time to turn it to the comment section and see what the people are talking about.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Let's start with a channel member. We got David in the house. Thank you so much for joining us and supporting the show. We greatly appreciate it on a monthly basis. As you guys can see, he has a little symbol by his name that indicates that he is a channel member. He says, we need a quarterback who can read defenses and a coach who can coach that position. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say it better myself, man. I mean, listen, I mean, you need a quarterback first and foremost that's comfortable in whatever system you feel like you're going to run. I mean, like I said, if you're running it back with Garrett Riley, go get somebody that fits this system. Maybe there's a guy that's out there that's even played in his system and or been recruited to his system. So I don't know. I mean, that's probably a pipe dream by now, but you get what I'm saying. You need to go get somebody that you think can come in and can fit well into this offense. Let's see. Zechariah says, I could see Tom Allen grabbing a Penn State defensive player too that he likes from when he coached there through the portal. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys entering from Penn State. I mean, there are, and obviously with Tom Allen only being 1 year removed from being their defensive coordinator, there's certainly some relationships there that maybe he could potentially pull on, and maybe you go and get a guy, and not the worst idea in the world. Other programs do that, so. But knowing Clemson, well, will they leverage that? I don't know. One can hope so. I mean, you built a front office and essentially an NFL front office for a reason. I mean, if you don't use it, man, I mean, it's just an abject waste of resources, like so much of this season has already been. I mean, if you're there's. I cannot believe that they would go and just say, well, we feel pretty good about where things are. We'll run it back. We'll go. Maybe we'll get a couple of guys, but we don't feel like we need to add a decent number. I don't think there's any world where. Well, I'd like to believe there's not any world where that happens, but
yeah,
I don't know.
It's hard to say. I hope that doesn't happen, but we'll see.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, you have Lane Kiffin week 1 on the road. Yeah, have fun. Yeah, I mean, I've heard some rumblings that there could potentially be a shift in that schedule. I think both programs potentially might want. I don't know. I don't think that game's going to get moved, but there's some rumblings that there may be a week 0 game coming on the horizon for both teams. Because playing a team of that caliber week 1 obviously there's a lot of reasons where that's that's a disadvantage in the 12 team playoff era. So
right.
No, we'll see. But yeah, not a great matchup in week 1 by any stretch of the imagination, because you know who is going to use the portal to improve their roster? Lane Kiffin.
A whole lot.
Yeah, and with LSU's resources, you're going to be walking into. With just going off of the previous history of both programs with their portal strategy and what they've their approach to the portal, I don't see any way you walk into that game feeling like you have the better roster.
No, you're not. You're not.
Not.
You're not going to have the better roster in that game. There's not a chance.
Yeah. Not great, man. I mean, this year's game, but especially, not winning that game, is even worse in retrospect than it was in the moment. So it just, in some ways, and in other ways, it's a miracle it was that close. So I don't know. You can spin it any way you want, whether you're a pessimist or an optimist, I guess. I don't know if you'll have that luxury next year, though. Yeah, Death Valley Tiger agrees. That says, I think to give Garrett Riley a fair shake, you have to let him have his type of quarterback. I agree. Rob Allen asks, will Dabo go after a top quarterback like Hoover or someone a level down like Aiden Childs? Listen, those guys are going to come. I think, no matter both of those names are going to come with a significant price tag. You just
quarterback inherently are going to come with a large price tag.
Yeah,
regardless of who they are.
Yeah. So listen, you gotta be a grown up.
Cade Klubnik was paid very well this past season. So it's not like they're incapable of paying the money.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. All right. A2 Saint 52 says, how much money would Clemson be willing to spend on a quarterback? Who are realistic or even popular likely names that Clemson would be going after? Colton Joseph, Kenny Minchie, Josh Hoover, Mestamaker. I think obviously Josh Hoover is going to be arguably going to be one of the top guys in the portal. But Mestamaker, he's going to come with a significant price tag. Like I said, you're going to have to go get somebody first, obviously, but it needs to be somebody that fits. I don't know. Colton Joseph is an interesting name. I think that's certainly a guy that I would be within. I think could potentially be within Clemson's price range, and I think Clemson could benefit from the quarterback market being as saturated as it is. You're not going to see. You're not going to see the ridiculous demands potentially as much. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but
yeah,
the fact that quarterbacks are not going to be as much of a premium as they have been in previous years. At least the top level ones aren't going to be as high of a premium. Maybe that helps you get some of the. Maybe it helps you get maybe one of the second tier or third tier guys. But I don't know. You need to get somebody that you feel like can come in and compete. I don't I don't necessarily think that you have to have somebody. If you do get somebody that you feel comfortable will just come in and start, great. But at the very least, you need to go get somebody that you can see. You can see them coming in and competing for a starting job. All right. Let's do a couple more, and then we got to get out of here because I've got still a lot of Christmas stuff to do. And I have to go into work early tomorrow, only for like a few hours, but a lot that needs to get done in that few hours. So, David Lowry with a BYOG or sell. BYOG or sell 10 portal players. I'm thinking max of 7, 8 with 4 or 5 of them defense. So I guess if Clemson 10, I think that's a good number. And then honestly, maybe, shoot, you get 10 on defense alone, and maybe you get I don't necessarily think you need the same amount of volume on offense, but there's some key positions, a couple key positions you have to address. And I think quarterback needs to be one of them. You go and get a portal running back. So honestly, I feel like the magic number is probably like 12. If in an ideal world, I don't necessarily think they hit that mark, but I think that would be a good number between the offense and the defense where you could say, okay, there's a chance this could work out. But, beyond that, I don't know. But I don't know. I'm a little pessimistic that they're going to hit that number. I do think they're going to go and get more guys than we've seen in previous years. But 10 is also kind of one of those I'll believe it when I see it numbers because they just have not.
I think
we got 3 last year and we were about to do backflips. So I don't know.
I think I'll sell on the 10, but I hope they get 10. I would be pleasantly surprised if they do 10. But yeah, my number is 8 to 10. I think they need to hang out in that kind of place. 12, I wouldn't be upset about that either. Honestly, this season with as many holes as they have, the more the better, I think. I don't ever want Clemson to be this team that brings in 20 transfers a year. But this season it's necessary. I think, any number between 8 and 12 is kind of a number that would be acceptable with this portal season.
Yeah.
10, I'll sell just because, like you said, Jordan, I'll believe it when I see it.
CJ asked me a question, what is Garrett Riley's type of quarterback? And didn't he recruit Cade? He did when he was at SMU. I think that's a good question. I think that's something we should do like a deeper segment on because I think that's something that, especially if Garrett Riley is your offensive coordinator next year and that's confirmed, that's something that I think we should, expound upon in further detail. But I do think Max Duggan in a lot of ways embodied what Garrett Riley likes. It's wasn't the perfect quarterback for his system, but I think a lot of what Max Duggan did at TCU is kind of what Garrett Riley likes. And Cade Klubnik was not Max Duggan. That's for sure. Definitely, you need a guy that the size profile, I think for Cade was obviously lacking for a number of reasons. And obviously the point guard ability was the quote unquote point guard ability wasn't there. A lot of his career. Cade was not a guy that was, always consistent at being able to get his guys the football. That's what Garrett Riley's offense is. You want to get your guys in space. You want to create favorable matchups for them. That was what, and largely that's what Clemson tried to do and what Garrett Riley tried to do, but throughout his time at Clemson. But and I think they were able to address getting the guys, at receiver especially. But Cade was a guy that, with all of his issues, was not able to operate this offense at a consistent enough level to where it was able to reach its full potential. And obviously this past season with the run game struggles, that certainly didn't help. So I don't know. Yeah, but that's something that we'll do a bigger deep dive on. Maybe next week. I think it's a great idea, and we can kind of delve into some of the options in the portal that I think could fit this offense, because I think that's so I definitely want to put a pin in this one and answer it further in another show. Intelligent Savage with the number best players wearing numbers in Clemson football history, starting from number 10 going backwards to 0. Oh, that's something I'm gonna have to do some research on. I'm not gonna be able to do that on the top of my head.
Yeah, that's a good off-season segment for us, though.
All right. And John Sarin makes a good point. I do think Tate Reynolds does embody a lot of what Garrett Riley likes. I mean, from the build, the athletic profile, and the arm talent, I think he was. I think this is ideally what you want, a guy that you feel comfortable with, and you're going to be able to run the football with him. But also he has a dynamic arm. And obviously he's sturdy. He's built for the position, so he can take that punishment. I mean, obviously you're not going to run him like 15 times a game, but being a threat with his legs and being a powerful runner, not necessarily just being a great straight line speed. Because I mean, Cade Klubnik was a good athlete, but I mean he wasn't going to. He didn't. Wasn't a very physically imposing guy that teams were scared of him. Running at, and you were worried if you were going to be able to bring him down. I mean, it just with him. Cade was a plus athlete that you had to account for, but was never going to be a major part of his game. And as far as running the football was concerned, he was more of I'm going to use my legs to get out in space to be able to deliver the football. He was not so much we're going to run a quarterback power and take the defense off guard. And I'm going to be able to fight and get some tough 5-6 yards because of my size. Like, that's just not him. Oh, and I think this is a good place for us to end off on. We have our newest member of the channel, Zachariah, deciding to support the channel on a monthly basis. Zachariah, thank you so much.
Appreciate you, sir.
Showing your support. Zachariah, obviously that means you get access to the members only live streams and a lot more exclusive content that's coming in the off season. Obviously we won't have games to do, but we will certainly be having more exclusive content throughout the off season. So thank you so much for supporting. That is greatly appreciated. It's not something you have to do. So any one of you that decides to do that, just know that we greatly appreciate it, because it really does help what we do here on the channel. So we appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, Zachariah. Appreciate you. Thanks for becoming our latest channel member, and we look forward to seeing you this Saturday for the game stream.
Yes, sir. All right. I think that's going to do it for us. Yeah, Katie says, "I wish we had a baseball channel." We'll certainly be talking baseball when that season rolls around. I know you guys have been wanting us to do more sports stuff. Didn't really get a chance to hit on the basketball team tonight, but we'll have more to say about it next week. And so
as the college football season comes to a close, we'll start dabbling in some other sports. If that's what you guys want to see. So. We'll start talking baseball. We'll start talking basketball. We'll throw some softball in there. We'll do it all. So stay tuned for that. Again, this show happens year round. We do talk football year round, So don't worry if you don't care about the other sports and you just want to hear about football. Don't worry. We talk football year round on this channel. But we will get into some more of the other sports because that seems to be what you guys want to hear as well. So we look forward to that. And we'll see you guys Saturday. Hopefully the Tigers can get a W, even though we both picked them to lose. So
yes. Absolutely. But until then, you guys take care. You guys enjoy Christmas. I hope each and every one of you and your family has a great and Merry Christmas. And we will see you guys Saturday.
We will see you guys Saturday. Merry Christmas to all of you and your families. Until then, I'm TPC. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.